Good evening and welcome to Closing Arguments. I'm Vinnie Politan. Great to have you with us tonight. And the first story we're starting with tonight is one we've been covering here. And a big fact in this case is that the homeowner shot through a door. He shot through a door and took the life of a woman named Maria. She was a house cleaner. Her and her husband had a great business, and their job was to show up early in the morning. They had the keys, unlock the door, go in and clean these houses. They went to the wrong house. And when they went to the wrong house, Maria Perez de Velasquez got shot in the head by the homeowner. Now, this homeowner, you look at these facts here. This is what my friends in the criminal defense bar would refer to as a bad fact, right? Your client is on one side of a locked door, the victim's on the other side of a locked door, and your client fires a gun through the locked door and kills someone. Now, part of the case is he did call 911 to report an attempted home invasion. So that's an important fact in this case. You say, okay, what's going on in his mind? What's going on in the mind of the homeowner? It is before sunrise. It's still dark out. It's about 6:45 a.m., about a half hour before sunrise in Indiana. And he, I guess, apparently hears someone in the front of the house. He calls 911 to report a home invasion. But before anyone responds to the home, he has taken a bullet and allegedly fired it into the head of the woman who was outside. Not a home invader, a home cleaner. So, why is this important? We covered another case that was sort of like this, and it's part of a Netflix series called or Netflix movie, Perfect Neighbor. Susan Lawrence, her trial was here on Court TV. She also called 911 to report that her neighbor was trying to break into her home. And that neighbor was actually banging on the door outside, not like rummaging through some keys, trying to find the key to open it up because they're there to clean the home. This was a neighbor who was angry with Susan Lawrence, and a neighbor who was banging on the door. And Susan Lawrence, same bad fact, shot through the locked, closed door and killed her neighbor. Susan Lawrence was convicted. And if you look at the two cases as to who's on the other side of the door, it seems in Susan's case there was someone who actually had, was not happy with Susan, who was inside and was aggressively banging on the door. But the jury found that was not justifiable. I think at the end of the day, what a jury does with a case like this, like Susan's and like the one in Indiana, is say, is it right? Is it right that the person on the other side of the door is getting shot? Now, if it's an actual home invader, like with a gun, my guess is the jury will say, okay, that was justifiable. But if it's not a home invader, if it's someone who was there and made an honest mistake in an address or was given the wrong address of which home to go clean, I think the jury might look at it and say, well, that's not right. You shouldn't get shot in the head for that, even if it is 6:45 in the morning. So prosecutors apparently agree with that, because today they announced charges against the homeowner, the man on the other side of the door who shot and killed Maria Perez de Velasquez. Take a listen.
First, I want to begin by expressing my deepest sympathies to the family and loved ones of Maria Florinda Rios Perez de Velasquez. This is a tragedy for everyone involved. And our hearts and prayers are with her family as they navigate this difficult time. I also want to thank the Whitestown Police Department for their outstanding work. Their investigation has been thorough and professional. Their continued cooperation and teamwork with the Boone County Prosecutor's Office has been invaluable as we move forward in this case. As prosecutors, we have a solemn responsibility. We cannot allow emotion to guide our decisions. Our duty is to examine the facts, apply the law fairly and equally, and ensure that justice is served without bias or influence. That is the only way the law can truly be just. Cases of this nature require a meticulous review of every detail and every piece of evidence. After a comprehensive examination, the Boone County Prosecutor's Office has filed one count, that count being voluntary manslaughter, which is to knowingly kill while acting under sudden heat as a level 2 felony. This has been charged against Curt Andersen of Whitestown, Indiana. It is vitally important for the citizens of Boone County to understand that our decision today in no way should be interpreted as a challenge to Indiana stand your ground law or a person's right to self-defense. We respect those laws, believe in those laws, and will uphold those laws. Based upon the particular evidence and circumstances of this case, we have determined that Curt Andersen's actions do not fall within the legal protections provided by the Indiana Stand Your Ground law. This case is not about undermining the law, it's about applying the law to the facts of this case, and that is what we intend to prove at trial. Curt Andersen remains presumed innocent, and until the state proves his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. This presumption of innocence is a cornerstone of our justice system and a principle that lies at the heart of a fair and just legal system. Finally, I need to address one critical point. During the pendency of this investigation, social media has circulated false and misleading information. This must stop immediately. It does not help the process. It does not help this case. It undermines the integrity of the judicial process. It spreads confusion, and it harms both the victim's family and the accused's right to a fair trial. One particular harmful claim was that this crime was committed by a police officer. That is categorically and absolutely false. Curt Andersen has no affiliation with any local police department. To our knowledge, he has never been a police officer, and there is no evidence of any connection to a law enforcement agency or personnel in Boone County. By spreading these falsehoods, you are undermining everything we work for every single day to ensure and defend in our system. Stop sharing rumors. Stop posting misleading narratives. Rely on official sources for accurate information. Justice cannot exist without the truth. At this time, I am prepared to take questions. What we're saying is that the Stand Your Ground law does not apply in this case, as Mr. Andersen did not have proper information which would allow him to make the determination that he was reasonable in his actions. We then started our review this past Monday, and we'll look at everything we had. So some of the things we have tape statements by witnesses. We have crime scene diagrams, crime scene videos, things of that nature is what we're looking at to make the determination. And then as a prosecutor, you look at the law, and then you look at case law to support your conclusions. We have met with the victim personally. I personally met with him 2 hours. We have an attorney on staff that speaks Spanish, and they were present in the room. We will have a victim advocate for them, but when we met with them, that was not part of the process. But they have a victim advocate. They'll be meeting with the victim advocate, and our attorney who speaks Spanish will be meeting with them. So we do that in every case.
Important takeaway, and I think the prosecutor did a nice job on this, talking about the Stand Your Ground law, the Castle Doctrine that exists in Indiana. And the fact is, this doesn't undermine that law. That law, the application of the law is determined by the facts of the case. And from his perspective, these facts do not fall under those protections. And there's nothing wrong with those protections. It's just these facts do not fall under those protections. That's what he is saying. Okay, so let's bring in our think tank tonight. Criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Al Wunsch III. Criminal defense attorney Darnell Crossland, and family law attorney Jennifer Brandt. Great to have you all here. So he's been charged with voluntary manslaughter. So Al, I want to put it up on the screen so everyone at home knows what we're talking about. A person who knowingly or intentionally kills another human being. Okay, that's knowingly or intentionally kills another human being. Straightforward, no premeditation necessary. Or while acting under sudden heat, commits voluntary manslaughter. The existence of sudden heat is a mitigating factor that reduces what would otherwise be murder under this chapter to voluntary manslaughter. So Indiana voluntary manslaughter, sudden heat. Sudden heat, which is sufficient to reduce murder to voluntary manslaughter, requires evidence of anger, rage, sudden resentment, or terror that is sufficient to obscure the reason of an ordinary man. So that's what they're saying here, is that this is not murder, this is voluntary manslaughter. Al, your thoughts?
Well, I'm happy to see that they are going after him. As you know, last week we covered this, and I was the only one that said that he should have been charged because you don't shoot through a closed door, and Darnell actually agreed with me. You don't shoot through a closed door that is locked and deadbolted. You don't do it. You don't just arbitrarily pick up a weapon and fire into a door, especially in a residential neighborhood. And 6:45 in the morning, generally most of your break-ins are not usually at 6:45 in the morning when people are up and getting ready to go to work. Okay, so the circumstances with regards to this stunk from the beginning. I thank the prosecution for going forward with charges on this. I'm a little upset that it's not murder because I think that this is purely and simply that. I mean, the intent was to kill this person.
Right,
That's
knowingly or intentionally kills another human being is voluntary manslaughter.
But they're going with heat, and in this case, the heat issue, to me, is nothing but a lot of hot air.
Darnell, let me put the Castle Doctrine up one more time to remind folks at home how that works. It's stand your ground in your house, the Castle Doctrine in Indiana. For the use of force, especially deadly force, to be justified under Indiana's Castle Doctrine and self-defense laws, the individual's belief in the necessity of that force to prevent serious harm or a forcible felony, which is like breaking into a house would be a forcible felony, must be both genuinely held, subjective, and something a reasonable person would have believed in the same situation. My guess is, Darnell, they don't believe he is being reasonable.
It could be, but as a scholar and as a person who examines the law, it requires us to look at what was the legislative intent behind all of this. So the idea about the Castle Doctrine, stand your ground, all that was born out of this idea that you should have the right to defend yourself. But when you scale that back even more, you must use reasonable force, and reasonable force is defined as force that's equal to the force that's coming at you. And so Al indicated if he's standing behind a locked door and somebody's knocking on the door or ringing the doorbell, that's not force that's coming at him to the point where he needs to now pick up a gun and shoot through that door. Even if the person was face to face with you and they had a stick, you can't pick up a bazooka and blow them away. So the Castle Doctrine just says once they get into your house, then you have a right not to retreat, but you still have the obligation to act reasonably. So I just feel that they weren't even in the house, so the Castle Doctrine really shouldn't have been triggered. And then the reasonableness should have still been there. So if you keep peeling this back, it's just unreasonable, from every which way.
Part of the doctrine, though, Darnell, part of the doctrine does refer to the curtilage of the home as well, which is sort of the outskirts of the home as well. So I've seen instances where it can be extended beyond the front door. But I think what they're saying here is that the actual threat, Jennifer Brandt, from the prosecutor's perspective, is there's not a reasonable threat at that moment. And we know there wasn't a reasonable threat because she's there to clean the house.
Right. And I think another thing was, I mean, they weren't banging on the door. They weren't trying to bang down the door. I think she was jangling some keys or trying to get a key in the door, but maybe not even getting it in the door. So there was, nobody trying to break into the house. They didn't get into the house. The door was locked and closed, and they were sort of behind it, maybe making some noise. But it seems like the homeowner had also saw them and reported to police that there were two Hispanic people on his doorstep. That's what he allegedly told the police. So he had already called the police, but then to pick up a gun and shoot through the door, just agree, is not reasonable in that moment when they weren't even trying to get in or getting in.
Vinny, just briefly on the curtilage arguments, we've had case law that showed where there's a mob of people outside of your home, and that's your curtilage, then people have shot towards that mob. But so just being in the curtilage alone still doesn't vitiate the fact that you have to be perceived a real threat. He could have easily said, "Who is it? How can I help you?" And they would have responded. Yeah. So he was just unreasonable in his approach, 100%.
And all I can say is thank God this isn't Florida, because he probably would have gotten away with it in Florida. Okay.
Al, why are we going after Florida, Al? Why are we going after Florida? They have the same laws.
Because there's a popcorn case where the guy threw popcorn and they shot him. And the
jury made a decision. The jury made the jury will make the decision here as well. These are the cases that are appropriate for the jury to make the decision on. The prosecutor went forward down in Florida. The prosecutor didn't say that was self-defense. The prosecutor tried to prosecute the popcorn guy.
I'm not blaming the prosecutor.
You're blaming Florida.
I'm blaming the law in Florida, correct? Okay, but in this case, we had a prosecutor to go forward on this and is going to take care of the situation. This woman did nothing but try to make a living.
Both cases are being dealt with the same exact way under the law. It'll be up to the jury.
Somebody picked up a gun. Somebody picked up a gun and fired before the 911 call. Ridiculous.
Al, I think you're correct. And if you listen to Charlamagne the God from the Breakfast Club, he says the craziest people in the world come from the Bronx and all of Florida. So that's what Al is saying. All of Florida. It is a jury, but they have a strange way of applying things down there. So I'm with Al already on this one.
Yeah, but Al was saying that it's different. It's the same law. The prosecution, the state of Florida dealt with it the same way the state of Indiana is, by bringing the case and the trial, and you're going to put it in front of a jury. Once it gets in front of a jury, the people are in charge.
That's true. That's true. Okay. We'll see. Al was saying that if this was in Florida, they would walk. And we hope this jury in Indiana didn't have vacation in Florida for too long.
All right. Jennifer Brandt, I'll give you the final word on this since we matched tonight.
Yes, we do. We coordinated, Vinny. I think, you got it right, Vinny. We'll see what the jury does with it. They charged him, which was appropriate. And we'll see what his defense is, what he has to say. Why did he do this? What made him, what provoked him to shoot? What circumstances were going on in his head? We're saying it's reasonable, but we don't really know what happened. So we're going to find that out when it goes to trial. All
right, Al, did you hear what Jennifer said? She said, "You got it right, Vinny." Repeat after me. You got it right, Vinny. There you go. He's not going to say it.
You got it wrong, Vin.
Okay. All right. Think Tank staying with us. When we come back, we're going to talk more about this story. I'm going to show you some of the evidence. I'm going to show you the bullet hole and exactly where on the door it is. Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinny Politan investigates the disappearance of mother of three, Anna Walsh. Her husband, Brian, is accused of killing and dismembering her, even though her body has not been found. Where is Anna? Tonight, we investigate.
You have to punish him? You have to kill him for a few $100?
You don't touch fire and expect not to get burned. My goal is to embarrass you. My goal is to make you suffer. My goal is for pain. Make sure that you remember me for the rest of your life.
You weren't feeling any sympathy?
If I'm being honest now.
You kill a man for acting like a junkie when you're the one turned him into a junkie.
Interview with a Killer season finale, Saturday night at 8 Eastern and Pacific, only on Court TV.
Somos tres hermanas.
We are three sisters, daughters of my father. In truth, we loved her like a mother. I see my younger sister suffering. They are not to blame for anything they are living through, suffering through. I see the baby suffering. He is not to blame. We came to this country to better ourselves, not to harm anyone. We only came to achieve something. It is very painful for me because we came with her, with many dreams. We talked on the way, suffering on the way to this country. We had many dreams we wanted to fulfill in Guatemala. We did not expect this news, and it is very painful to see my father suffering. I was saying that he is the only one we have left now. Seeing him suffer, us seeing him suffer, is very painful. We are many daughters, and seeing him suffer for his wife, who loved him very much. She loved him so much. When they were together, they were very happy. We went to church, they went to church, they would invite us to church. Sometimes we would go with everyone, with all his daughters. Maria was there, in front of us. She taught us to look for the things of God. In Guatemala, in our country, we went to vigils, fast. We were always with her, like a mother, someone who taught us the right path. And that is why we are here, to present ourselves, to ask for justice, because it is not possible that she, having been here for only 2 years, had this happen. And that is why we are here, asking for justice.
It says that even if we are immigrants, we are still people. We are not animals, we are still human, and that we deserve this justice to be delivered.
It's tough. It's brutal. It's difficult to overcome this. I don't know if you do. You know, these children are going to grow up, her young children are going to grow up without a mom. That's not easy. And for what, right? That's what I was, for what? Going to work, trying to do your job, and somehow, some way you make an honest mistake, go to the wrong house and get shot. So they do have an attorney who is guiding them through the process, and I'm sure will file the appropriate civil lawsuits. But take a listen to what he had to say today.
As the attorneys representing the family of Maria Florinda Rios Perez, we are encouraged to see that the Boone County Prosecutor's Office has filed criminal charges in connection with her tragic and preventable death. This is an important step towards accountability, truth, and justice, and it's a step that Maria's family deserves. On the morning Maria was killed, she was simply arriving to clean a home. She was doing her job, supporting her family, and contributing to her community. A community that has come together unlike anything I've ever seen. And I'm not kidding you guys, I've been doing this a long time, and I've never seen anything quite like it. As we all know, Maria never made it inside the house. She was shot through a closed door. Maria was a mother, a wife, a sister, and a valued member of our community. Her life was taken in a manner that should never happen in any neighborhood in Indiana. My entire team is committed to ensuring that Maria's family receives the answers, the support, and the justice, both in the criminal system and through the civil process, that they deserve. No family should ever have to bury a loved one and then have to fight alone for accountability. We will stand with Maria's family every single step of the way. This case is about public safety. It's about basic human dignity and ensuring that every person in Indiana, regardless of their background, regardless of what language they speak, can work, can live, and move through our neighborhoods without fear of being harmed. Our communities are safer when we hold wrongdoers accountable and when we value every single human life. Maria's family is hurting, and they deserve justice, closure, and support. We will continue to advocate for them relentlessly, in court, in negotiations, and in every space where their voices need to be heard. We ask the community to keep Maria's family in their thoughts as they navigate this devastating loss. And we thank the Boone County prosecutor for taking this case seriously and moving forward with charges. I'm going to share a statement prepared by the family. We thank everyone present, those who have already helped us and those who continue to do so. We have received immense support from the Latino community and from all Americans. Thank you so very much for your concern and support for our family. And we thank the prosecutor for fulfilling his duties under the laws of the state of Indiana. Perhaps Maria will not return to us. Given the charges that will be brought against this person, but the children and the family demand justice so that other families do not have to go through what we are going through. And for those who still wish to help, especially for the children, we appreciate the help and the support, because the children miss their mother, and she will never, ever return. Thank you.
She will never return. And you know, that's the reality of the case. You know, it's so important, and I'm glad that they have a voice. You know, a lot of times victims can get lost in the system if they don't have a strong advocate here. They obviously do. All right, I want to turn back to some of the evidence in this case, and let's take a look at that front door. Let's take a look at that bullet hole. You can see where the hole is. It's just below the window on the door, right? But when you pull back and take a look at the door and how high off the ground all that is, I think it's very, very revealing. There's the window that it's under. So it's not that high off the ground. She's shot in the head. Now, we don't know the exact trajectory of the gun, if it was going down, if it was going straight horizontal. But if that hits her head, he's 6'2", the defendant. Could he look in the window above? Could he obviously look in the window to the side and see exactly who was there before he fires the weapon? Let's bring back in our think tank, Al Wunsch, Darnell Crossland, and Jennifer Brandt. Jennifer, I'll start with you. What do you think of what we see there in terms of the evidence, where that bullet hole is and how high or how actually low it is in the door that's got a window plus a side window?
I mean, Vinny, I think the window is very telling. I mean, whoever's behind that door, especially if he's a taller guy, he could see out the window or from the side. He could see that there was a woman out there, a woman and a man, you know, not especially threatening people. They weren't wearing masks as far as we know. You know, they weren't pushing the door in as far as we know. So, I mean, he probably could see what was going on. Also, where he shot the gun, it's pretty high up on the door. You know, he was definitely aiming for her head or the top part of her body, as opposed to if he had shot lower, maybe shot her in the leg or something like that to stop her. But, you know, where it is in the door, it looks like he was aiming for her head.
Yeah, Darnell, what are your thoughts here on some of the evidence? Here, we can put the picture back up so the folks can see it, about this bullet hole.
Yeah, so I don't know her exact height, but regionally speaking, people from Guatemala tend to be a bit shorter. So I don't think that was intended to be a headshot. He probably was shooting for center mass of a person who's probably of a certain average or taller height. She appears to be shorter. So center mass for somebody around 5'8", 6 feet might have been exactly where that was. So he's probably was trained to shoot straight through that door for center mass. So I think that all adds up to the fact that he knew he was looking for a kill shot, period. Like we both said, or like Jennifer said, he could have looked a peep to the left. He could have took a peep at the top. He could have took a coverage position and said, who is it? What do you need? What do you want? All those things are things that we're trained to do when you're shooting or in self-defense. He did none of those things. He just shot to kill. But lastly, I just want to say, I'm so glad to have that attorney there on this case, an advocate, a person to give voice to these people. A lot of times lawyers get the short end of the stick because they think that they're looking to sue for money. But let me tell you something. No amount of money in the world could bring that woman back. But to give that family no compensation is even a double tragedy. So I hope that they sue this person. They get every dime that they can possibly get. And although it can't make the family whole again, it at least could address some of the concerns and fill some of the spaces that are going to be now void because she's no longer there to work and support that family.
Yeah, there's a lot missing right now. Go ahead, Al.
Darnell's actually giving the man too much credit. My understanding was the first time he's ever fired this handgun, that he has two. He's never fired any one of them. He's never gone to a shooting range with them. He had some experience as a nurse in the Navy where he said he had handled a weapon then, but was never, that proficient with regards to same. And he just fired that gun. So to be saying he was looking center mass or anything else, he just fired. He's never worked this gun before. This is the first time this weapon has discharged a bullet. And he took out somebody in the head. So there was no way he was trained to do this or he had any idea what was going on. He took the gun and he fired. And he fired without reckless disregard for anyone who was behind that door. Not only that woman, but the man who was the husband next to her and the neighbor across the street and the kid going to school at 6:45 in the morning.
Al, could that be turned around and used by the defense for maybe something less than voluntary manslaughter, maybe involuntary manslaughter if he's just being reckless?
No, not because he fired at the door. The fact that he didn't know how to use it, okay, is not going to be something that's going to give him a benefit in front of a jury. In fact, it's going to probably work to his disadvantage.
Could he say accidental discharge? He had the gun just in case and it went off. That's what he's going to say.
But you know what? He hasn't said that. So that's the interesting thing. And I agree with you. That could have been a situation where he had brought that up. It's like, listen, I never fired it before. I slammed it on, and then all of a sudden the gun went off. But he did not say that. And he purposely stayed in the house and wouldn't even come out, making some garbage excuse that I'm still afraid that they're on the, they're nearby here and there could be something against me. He and his wife refused to come out of the house. That would have been a perfect time for him to formulate it went off by accident. But he didn't do that.
Well, so we'll see what happens at the trial. We'll see what happens at the trial. Sometimes things change.
It's going to be a little hard. It's going to be a little hard to put that in at this late date.
Yeah. Okay. Think Tank, stay where you are. Coming up. Oh, boy. Everyone's talking about this. Kim Kardashian. A lawsuit. She's suing Ray J. Ray J is suing her. What do they have to do with each other? Oh, that's right. They made that tape back in 2007. Oh, boy.
Tyra Banks has asked me to be on her show next week, and I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I love Tyra.
I know. How cool would that be? There's just one little catch.
What?
You'd have to talk about the tape.
I don't want to talk about it.
I know, but you could just, be honest and say how you feel and...
kind of just set the record straight?
Yeah, you could do that.
That was with my boyfriend of 3 years that I was very much in love with, and whatever we did in our private time was our private time, and never once did we think that it would...
That was Kim Kardashian back in the day talking about the sex tape that she made on Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Well, that is now back in the news because the other party in that tape is a man named Ray J, and he's been talking about Kim. Here is Ray J on TMZ.
If you told me that the Kardashians was being charged for racketeering, I might believe it. But Diddy sex trafficking and all these other extra things. Like, it's, to me, knowing him, knowing the situation, being around with most of the people that's testifying, you know, I just feel like there's somebody at the top who's making a statement, who's making a point.
He went on and talked about how their conduct was worse than Diddy's and that they're building an actual RICO case against the Kardashians. Those were the claims of Ray J on this broadcast. Well, after he made those statements, he was then sued by Kim Kardashian and her mother. Civil lawsuit for defamation, saying, what are you talking about? None of this stuff is true. There is no federal RICO investigation into us. Well, after they sued Ray J is now filing a cross complaint against Kim and Kris Jenner. Here's what she wrote. Here's what he wrote in his cross complaint. Mother and daughter have spent 2 decades peddling the false story that the sex tape that the Kardashians filmed with her former boyfriend, Willie Ray Norwood, that's Ray J, was leaked against her will. They are furious that Norwood, Ray J, no longer wants to play along with their tall tale. Here is the truth. On the reality show, The Kardashians, Kardashian Jenner and Kardashian's ex-husband, Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, falsely accused Norwood, who's Ray J, of sexually assaulting Kardashian while she was asleep, releasing revenge porn and extortion. Then, the basis of the complaint now is that Kardashian agreed to pay Ray J $6 million, agreed to ensure that no further mention or public reference to the sex tape is made on the Kardashians. And then he said, almost immediately after the agreement was executed, statements by Kardashian, Jenner, and Ye and Kendall Jenner all about the sex tape were aired on the Kardashians in violation of the agreement. So who's right, who's wrong? What's going to happen in this civil lawsuit? Will it go to trial? Will you see it on Court TV? Al Wunsch, Darnell Crossland, Jennifer Brandt are with us. Who wants to go first on this one, Darnell?
Well, since Al doesn't know much about sex or sex tapes, let me take it from here. So Al, these 2 consenting adults had sexual intercourse, and it was filmed. You follow me so far? And so what Ray J should be suing for are royalties, because that was a performance. And so I'm sure that he's entitled to some type of performance compensation. But instead, he's suing because they breached the NDA, non-disclosure agreement. And after they reached that agreement, they weren't supposed to talk about this on the air. But however, the funny thing is, this all starts because he's defending Diddy, and then they sue him for defamation. Then he brings up that they breached the NDA. So it's just a bunch of malarkey flying around. And the way it's going to end is that Kim is going to pay him because Skims just got valued at what a couple $1 billion per line. So she's going to pay him because she doesn't need that kind of publicity right now. Skims is launching, and they're launching in a big way. Jennifer, help Al out, because he's still stuck with the sex.
If I may. Al's at a loss for words for once. It's incredible. It's incredible. I agree with you, Darnell. I think it's a lot of back and forth, and I think that they're just going to end this. Well, Al, you had your chance, but now, we're going to move on from there. I think that this is just a lot of nonsense, but a lot of publicity for both of them. And I don't think it'll end up anywhere. If Ray J wanted to sue, he had a chance to do this before, because this episode aired some time ago. It wasn't something very recent. So,
Al, you have time now. Go ahead, Al.
All right, thank you.
Are you ready, Al?
You started off the segment with who's right, who's wrong. My question is, who cares? Okay, under the circumstances, and for just some facts that are brought out, of the 3 of us, Darnell is the only one that actually took his cousin to the prom. So we got to keep that in mind. Okay. With regards to same, all right, there is no one that would want to film Darnell in any form of an act whatsoever. So he films himself all the time, and he sends us these videos.
Okay, what about the lawsuit, Al? Let's get back to the lawsuit.
But in the lawsuit, the bottom line is this. It's a publicity-driven thing. There's no way that they're going to be able to prove anything on this. The defamation claim is bogus, okay? She's a public person. You have to show actual malice with regards to saying?
Well, he's saying there's an actual RICO investigation.
The comment was, if you told me that there was a RICO investigation against her, it wouldn't surprise me. Okay, that's not saying that. Now, there may be some other parts that he says something along those lines, but opinion is not going to be enough to overcome the actual malice standard in this case. And the fact that there is other stuff going on with regards to she was deceptive with regards to the sex tape at the beginning, with regards to what was going on, and that she was going to make it up, that this was revenge porn and things along those lines. She's got no credibility whatsoever. This is a publicity grab because apparently she isn't in the press enough. So they throw this lawsuit out there. It's going nowhere fast. Her and Raymond J. Johnson Jr., or whatever his name is, Ray J. You can call me Ray. You can call me Jay.
Brandy's brother. Remember Brandy?
Well, I remember Brandy. I remember Brandy.
Well, that's her brother.
Got a new book coming out.
Yeah,
So
before
she's got
the
a new
tape,
book
that's
coming
how.
out,
That's
so
what
right
he
on
was
there.
known as, Brandy's brother before the tape. Then he became known as the guy in the tape. So at the end of the day,
Well, there you go.
is this going to be a trial? Give me a 0 to 10 chance of this being a trial. Al, you go first, then we'll go Darnell, and then Jennifer Brandt. 0 from Al.
0.
0 from Darnell. 0. Really? If it's for
Darnell's
publicity, wouldn't the publicity of the trial outweigh anything?
No.
This is no Johnny Depp. And
They're going to see how far it goes. They're going to see how far it goes on TMZ and things along those lines. If no one has interest, there's no sense having.
No, there's interest in
it's not
this.
going to work.
So are you saying that it
It's not
just
gonna-
goes away, or there's a settlement? Who pays
There'll
who?
be an alleged settlement that'll be quiet.
Settlement. One, I don't think Ray J, his money is long enough right now to sustain a long trial. And Kim, again, has bigger fish to fry with the Skims new valuation. And so she's going to settle this, push Ray J to the side, and keep it moving.
Darnell, you know a lot about these Skims, by the way. Like, maybe
He's wearing
a
them
lot.
now.
He knows a lot about the Skims. All right. Well, we're going to keep an eye on it on Court TV, because if it is a trial and there are cameras, you'll see it here, of course. Big thank you.
Kim is watching. I'm available.
And by the way, by the time it goes to trial, she'll probably pass the bar and she'll be able to represent herself.
She can work with my
Al
firm.
Wunsch, Darnell Crossland, Jennifer Brandt, thank you all so much. We'll see you next time when we come back. I'll reveal something else you need to know, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan investigates the murder trial of Brian Walsh, accused of murdering his missing wife, Anna. The lead investigator on the case was the same detective from the Karen Reed case, Trooper Michael Proctor. How will that impact Walsh's case? Tonight, we investigate.
Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan investigates tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
Sunday nights on Court TV. Join us for a night of food, friends, and our favorite legal dramas. It's Order in the Court, and this week we're binge watching Bull. Sundays on Court TV.
Maker.
Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. And facing 30 years, you can see the look in his eyes. Antonio Brown, NFL legend and superstar, appeared at his arraignment virtually. Looked a little shocked to the fact that he's facing 30 years in prison for the charges of attempted second-degree murder with a weapon. This is a big case. We'll keep an eye on it, folks. Also, we have a child who needs your help tonight. How much time do we have left here? Okay. Jordan Schuyler, Shane McEachran, 17 years old, missing since November 13th. If you see her, call her. More straight ahead.